or wonder stove. So, please join me in welcoming our guest speaker today, Yusuf Turo.
Just so you know, I paid him a lot of money to say that. As you can see, I am not from around here. I'm from far away place called Seattle. I was born and raised in a small village in East Africa, Ethiopia. Any Ethiopians in the audience? In our village, no one had running water, electricity, indoor plumbing, none of these great things that we take so for granted in this great land. As a kid, my duties were helping my grandmother collecting firewood for cooking, cow dung, fetching water from the river. In addition to that, I was also responsible for tending to our vast herds. We were semi-nomadic people. Where village kid and I would take our herds on grazing for days, sometimes even for weeks. Those were the most wonderful, memorable time in my life, where we spend most of the time riding horses. Some of you might not know this. We were the original cowboys. But with no cowboy hats or boots. Civil War, poverty, communism has changed our way of life for worse. When the communists came to power, they terrorized villagers. They made killing as if it was just a fun thing to do. They used to kill villagers and force the young kids in my age to watch dead bodies to instill fear and terror. They even used to build the surviving family members for the bullet. Just so you know, this is documented, internationally documented. Living was unbearable. So, as you might have seen so many times on the news, once again, East Africa became hell on earth, where people by thousands, maybe even millions, have forced to flee their villages, their homes, their country, to just find relatively safer places. When you are in poverty, when you are that poor, you really don't have a lot of option. It's not like you can take a plane to Canada. We traveled through the most dangerous landscape of Africa, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles on foot, crossing into northern Kenya, where we were fortunate enough to be taken as a refugee. Now, refugee, as you can imagine, for a person is such a dehumanizing event. You lose your country, you lose your family, now you are in a country that might not even want you there. But this is a tragedy of life. In some part of Africa, it's almost as if it's becoming normal. I was among the fortunate enough to even have an opportunity to live in this refugee camp. This refugee camp sat in the middle of the desert, filled with a filthy tent as far as an eye can see. It was horrible. The smell was just unbearable. The living condition was subhuman. because of lack of resources, people were dying on a daily basis. It's very sad. Poverty, refugee, all these inhuman events that are happening in 21st century, they should be in museum. I lived in that refugee camp for 3 years under very, very difficult conditions until I met someone from the State Department, Dennis Blackburn, the American Counselor for Refugee Affairs in East Africa. She stood about 5'5" with a short gray hair and a smile that would just take your breath away. She was the only white person I have seen. I have almost mistaken her for an angel. She had a smile. She smells good. She has nice clothes on. I have never seen anything like that before. She gave me a magazine that completely changed my life around. She passed out a magazine, an American publication, in a refugee camp. So, I too, that was the only position that I had in refugee camp, and I watched, I read that page, I looked over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. What I saw, sorry about that, what I saw on that page took me, it literally transferred me to America. On those pages, I saw you, Americans, with the nice shoes, with the smile. I want some of those shoes myself too. The imagination became so vivid. By just sheer of luck, I was chosen to come to America with the help of Church World Services and State Department. Coming to America. My first flight would have been a lot more comfortable, would have been a lot more fun if someone had told me there was a restroom on the airplane. When I got to New Windsor, this is a small town near Baltimore City. It was a transitional housing for refugees like myself that didn't have any sibling. I was just like in heaven. I have never seen so much good stuff in my whole life. The streets were a lot more cleaner than almost all the houses that I have ever seen. The number of cars, the people, it was incredible. I looked around my room. I had my own bed, my own linen, even my own Bible. As far as I'm concerned, I made it. I look around in the hallway and I say to myself, America is so good. Even the floor had its own blanket. Now, most of you will never recognize that 75% of the world population, they don't even have a proper floor. Where I work right now in Africa most of the year, most people, they don't even have enough blanket to go around, let alone to have a carpeting on the floor. This is a land of opportunity, a land of abundance. I was fortunate enough to have been fostered. I had a foster family that took me out of the East Coast to Washington, to Olympia, Washington, where I learned the good things, the good way of living in America, learning to drive, all the simple things that in an average American will take it for granted. Over the years, I worked my way up, did all I could do. I've done some success in business, some setbacks, but one thing that always drew me to Africa was how I can be of a service to others. You see, I was drawn to you, key clubbers, because of the service. When it's all said and done, life is all about service. But serving others is like a honey. You can talk about it, you can write about it, you can brag about it, but up until you test it, you will not know what honey is. I'm pretty certain the cake lovers, you can feel it. If you want to make a difference in your own life, go out there and make difference in somebody else's. Put service first from your heart, you will never come second. Many years ago, as I was traveling back and forth to Africa, trying to find in a way that I can serve people, I came across a problem that just blew me away. Now, most of you might not know this. Most of the world population, that's over 3 billion of people, is still stuck in unimaginable poverty, living in such human condition. Because even if you are that poor, you still have to eat. And if you have to eat, you have to cook. Because of the changes that is happening, people have been dying just for cooking their meals. We have a major under-publicized problem. And it's called indoor open fire cooking. It kills millions of people. If you are in a third world country, like in a country like Ethiopia that I work most of the time, or Latin America or Asia, it's a very common thing to see a mother with her children trying to cook a meal for her family, exposing herself and her kids to indoor pollution. According to World Health Organization, it's equivalent to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes every single day, without even knowing it. Sickening, I thought, in 21st century, where people have to, because of poverty, because of lack of education, they still have to struggle that way. It kills over 2 million people every single year. In fact, the recent data shows the numbers in 4 million, around 4 million. That's about 5,000 people every day. 5,000 people. Over 2 million people every year. Imagine, if you will, if you took a vacation for 1 year, left King County to Canada or anywhere else, and you came back to find out that the entire King County is just wiped out. That's the kind of calamity that we're talking about. But we cannot solve a problem that we don't know. By the time I'm done with my presentation, we have over 200 people will just perish for such preventable. We have remedies for it. Now, among all the people that are dying out of this indoor pollution, 70% of them are children under 5 years of age. It made me sick to my stomach that I said, I want to do something. I want to do something. Something has to be done. I might not save the whole million people. Even if it means saving one person, I want to do something. Many years ago, I gathered the team in Africa to build a simple, affordable, portable stove that would address health, environmental degradation, poverty issue. I'm happy to announce to you today, 5 years into the project, we have done just that. We have made over 120,000 stoves. According to Rotary International, changing a life of over 500,000 people. You see, if you care, if you have enough compassion to do something for humanity, for higher purposes, you can start with nothing. Absolutely nothing. I cannot tell you the number of people that say, oh, this cannot be done. This is out of the question. This is not the right way to do it. It's not going to happen. Well, we're talking about human spirit here. In every tree, there is a seed. In every human being, there is a spirit. There is nothing impossible. It's just a word. That's why I was so happy, I was so excited to have an opportunity to come and talk to you today. I'm getting more out of this than you will ever do. Because I'm drawn to remind people the power that is within us, that we can go out there and do things. We don't have to be anything special. As you can see, I'm not anything special. If we make it on ourselves to help other people, the approach should be in a way that they can help themselves. Around the Green Project, what we have done, we have created a training program where we have families, a stay-at-home mom can do part of the stove. The stove has two components. The interior part is made out of clay, which is readily available in every part of impoverished communities. Latin America, Asia, Africa, Western Hemisphere. Readily available. It's done by stay-at-home moms. The cladding, the exterior part of the stove, which I will have the stove on display for you to come and take a look at it, is made out of scrap metal. We use used car parts, eggs, can, any malleable metal that we can find. So we create a team that turns waste material into something resourceful. In Africa and other impoverished communities, what has been lacking is not the resources, it's resourcefulness. We always approach in terms of handouts. What impoverished communities need the most is hands up, not handout. Hands down will never solve the problem. If we think the problem that is creating the indoor pollution, the lack of firewood, is creating environmental catastrophe on an unimaginable scale. Believe it or not, it will affect all of us. After all, we all have one Mother Earth to share. It's not like we're moving anywhere anytime soon. In addition to that, if we don't tackle some of these issues, it will create failed states. We already have a lot of communities that have been failing. It would be a perfect breeding ground for terrorism, which we have to deal with. It contributes tremendous amount of carbon driving to global warming, whether we believe it or not. Mother Earth has enough for all of us, but not enough for all the greedy ones. We can do something. With the Wonder Project, with the Green Project, we have created a job locally that is made by the local for the local consumption. We had, from the very beginning, inclusiveness, where along all the tribes, along all the religious lines, where everybody can participate, based on their merit, not based on their ethnicity or their religious affiliation. We installed and taught each and every team member characters, values, in a way to serve the community, not just to make a living, but to make a contribution, so that they can do more for others. Doing it for others is always the most win way to accomplish this task. You see, with a simple step, starting out simple, we can do magnificent change. We can contribute. We can go beyond the sky. There is no limit. Millions of families will have this stove, and the stove costs less than $10. It's less than two cups of Starbucks. In fact, if you can come and get it right where we make them, you can buy it for $8. The $10 is because of the transportation. If we have to move it around the village, we have created hundreds of jobs for people that are in your age that never would have an opportunity to work because of poverty. We have saved so many young girls from going into forced marriages, from being sold. This is the reality of poverty. This too shall pass. In the cosmos, this is a cosmic law. Everything, the material illusion, is a temporary. The goodness, the contribution that we put out to Mother Earth is everlasting. I'm going to leave you with the saying with indigenous people. We are all visitors to this time, to this place. We are just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to love, to serve, and then to return home. Thank you very much.